HR issues can kill you. One complaint against your company can turn your world upside down. And you spend way too much time dealing with HR when you should be spending your time on making a profit. You should talk to Bambi. With Bambi, get access to your own dedicated US-based HR manager starting at just $99 per month. They get to know you and your business while providing HR expertise and the personal touch you need and want. They're available by phone, email, and real-time chat, so onboarding and terminations run smoothly. Team members reach peak performance, and your business stays compliant with changing HR regulations. And with Bambi's HR Autopilot, you'll automate important HR practices like setting policies, training, and feedback. HR managers can easily cost $80,000 a year, but Bambi starts at $99 per month. Schedule your free conversation today to see how much Bambi can take off your plate. Go to Bambi.com right now and type in Accelerate under podcast when you sign up. It'll really help the show. Spelled BAM, BEE.com. Bambi.com. Type in Accelerate.
Welcome to Accelerate Your Business Growth with your host, Diane Helbig. Diane is a leading small business development and leadership coach, author, and speaker who is passionate about sharing valuable ideas, tips, and techniques with business professionals worldwide. Diane brings you the world's experts and gurus in all things business. Whether it's sales, structure, social media, planning, or plateauing, guests bring their expertise and energy to each episode. When growing your business is your focus, Accelerate Your Business Growth is the show to listen to. Got a topic or guest suggestion? Let Diane know. The goal is to make sure you have the information you need to move your business forward. Thanks for joining us. Settle in and enjoy.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. Today's podcast is sponsored by Audible.com. As I imagine most of you know, Audible.com is a leading provider of audiobooks, but you may not know that they have a lot of other content as well, podcasts, Audible originals, all sorts of stuff. So you should check it out if you haven't already by taking this free trial that we're offering you at audibletrial.com/businessgrowth. Over the years, Accelerate Your Business Growth podcast has continued to enjoy inclusion on lists of the best podcasts to listen to for sales, business, leadership, you name it when it comes to business. And it's really because of the guests who I have been fortunate enough to speak with over the years. These are folks who have expertise in a particular area of business, and they join me and we have a conversation where they share that expertise with all of you. Today is no different. My guest today is Ruth Klein. Ruth is a brand strategist and productivity coach for CEOs, entrepreneurs, and sales teams. She's also the author of the upcoming book, Generation Why Not? 7 Principles to a Purposeful Business and Life Driven by Attitude, Not Age. Thanks so much for joining me today, Ruth.
Absolutely. It's great to be here.
Well, I'm thrilled to have you here. We're going to be talking about generations in the workplace, which is a lot of people's favorite subject. And we're just going to, jump right in. I am curious what you think is like the number one reason there's conflict intergenerationally in business.
That's a great question. I think the number one reason that there's intergenerational conflict in business is because we have each age group, if you will, has certain perceptions centered around people that are different than them. And it's as though our perceptions are looking through a tunnel. And we may have a situation where a millennial is the managing director of a baby boomer. And immediately the baby boomer may go to the place of, wait a minute. Why is someone so much younger than I, doesn't have my experience, and they are now telling me what to do? What is that? And this person could be my child. And that's kind of how they look at it. And the millennial many times looks at the baby boomer as though that person, male or female, could be a parent. And the sandwich group is that Generation X, and they're not pleased with either one. And so then you get these terms, these judgments thrown against the wall, where you hear millennials are they just don't listen, and they're all in it just for themselves, and it's just the baby boomers, they're not just with the times, the technology, they don't know how to do technology. And you get all these comments. They're really not based on observation so much as general judgments. And instead of opening our eyes and being able to see each person as a person versus a category, we will continue to respond to the category versus the person.
Okay, that's really interesting. And then it feels like we do not only them, but ourselves a disservice, because we miss out on building that relationship with them based on who they are, not the generation that they're in.
Exactly. That's exactly right. So what happens is, anytime you look through a tunnel of judgment, you're not listening anymore. Or you're listening only for those words or ideas that reinforce your tunnel vision.
Yeah.
So the idea of this generational divisiveness, if you will, is, I'm proposing that we get rid of the old categories of generations by age, and rather we look at people as people, and look through a different perceptual lens where we can see people, their hearts and their brains and their innovations and their creativity and their attitude. And this is the generation that I've coined Generation Why Not. And this is a generation, it doesn't matter what the age is, it's about attitude. And it's interesting, Diane, I've interviewed so many different people to reinforce this hypothesis, where I knew it was about attitude and not age, because I have always, and so many of us have, some of my best friends are millennials, and I'm a baby boomer, and also Generation Xers, and vice versa. And so why is that? And so after interviewing so many people, from multi-million-dollar unicorn millennial startups to severely autistic young men, to the real Jerry Maguire, who is Lee Steinberg, and many, many others, to an 84-year-old retired man who wrote 4 books in as many years, and at 84 is excited to be promoting and marketing his new book. What is that? Yeah. It's a different generation. It's based on attitude. It's about putting on a new perceptual lens, because here's the deal. Here's the bottom line. The bottom line is, as we open up our perceptual lens and we start to see people as people, which means we are listening more, which means that we are open to their ideas, we're going to be able to solve some of the world's most damaging health concerns, economic concerns, economic divide. We can do this. We need to be able to be innovative and creative and open to possibility. That's the only way that this is going to happen. And when you speak to people that are creative, they just go off the charts with, well, that's possible. Yeah, that's possible. That's possible. And that's where most of the inventions have happened, in that space of being open, the attitude of being open to things that you read, people that say something. And so can you imagine bringing that perceptual lens into corporate America, into businesses, large and small? Very, very powerful.
Absolutely. I'm going to take a quick sponsor break and then I have some more questions for you. Accelerate Your Business Growth podcast is happy to be sponsored by Audible.com. Audible.com is a leading provider of spoken digital audio entertainment and information. They have thousands of titles to choose from, as well as podcasts, Audible originals, guided meditations, and more. One of my favorite audiobooks is Everyone Deserves a Great Manager by Scott Miller. For me, I love being able to listen to it anywhere and across my devices without losing my place. And I think you will too. So visit audibletrial.com/businessgrowth to explore the variety of audiobooks and programs for yourself. So talk to me some about what employees really are craving in the workplace.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what we need to focus on.
Yeah.
That's what we need to focus on. So, for example, it's, this old unfortunate judgment that millennials are entitled.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even know what that means exactly, but I know Generation X that are entitled. I know baby boomers that feel entitled.
Yeah, me too.
And it runs its gamut. And I know some millennials, many millennials are getting a bad rap. They're just getting a bad rap. And baby boomers are getting a bad rap, and Generation Xers are getting a bad rap. So going back to your excellent question, before we go there, I want to make comment to something I think is very valuable. And I think the biggest clash, I believe, and I've observed, and I work a lot with corporate American businesses and things of that sort of different sizes. And what has come up, the biggest clashes seem to be between the millennials and the baby boomers. And it's very interesting because you have basically the age differential, if you will, between a parent and a child.
Yeah.
And very commonly, that child and parent who are the most similar end up butting the biggest, have their heads just in a situation where they're just not listening to one another. And yet, here's the interesting piece I want to just kind of share as a little bit of the groundwork. As a baby boomer, we were the ones that started this whole movement of love and corporate America, be fairer with everyone. We were the ones that started with health and flowers and being kind to the environment. We're the ones that have so many of the same values in the way we see the world as millennials do today.
Yeah.
And so can we go back to those times? Can we be compassionate and share and at least understand where they're coming from? Because with understanding comes clarity. With clarity comes the freedom to move forward and have a conversation.
Well, Oh, I'm sorry. It's so funny because I love millennials and I feel I totally get this. And what I usually say to people is, we're the ones who raised them this way. So if we're going to be upset with anybody, I think we need to be upset with ourselves because we did this. We created these humans.
Well, that there's a lot of truth to that. There is a lot of truth to that. And yet, that's a slippery slope because that is true, but it's a slippery slope because at some point, everyone needs to be able to let go of parental upbringing if their life is not where they want it to be, and
True.
be able to say, you know what, I learned XYZ at home, but that's not serving me today.
Yeah.
And so I must update my thoughts and my beliefs about myself and others. And now we're talking about some juicy, juicy information, because what many times limits us in the workforce and moving forward on our projects and in our business are limiting beliefs which we created when we were in our, basically between the ages of 2 and 8. And someone close to us said something, and they may not even have meant it, but our little brains, cognitive brains, were not advanced as an adult yet. So can you imagine making a pivotal decision about yourself at age 4, or making a pivotal decision about yourself at age 8, and then living your life with that belief about yourself? Not smart enough, not good enough, not loved, not seen, not accepted. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And so this is a treasure trove. This is a gift. It's a gift to understand and be compassionate with those limiting beliefs. And because those limiting beliefs and thoughts were mostly created and between the ages of 2 and 8, and then they were reinforced, but they were selectively reinforced. So we had made that pivotal decision about ourselves and how we see ourselves. And then if someone said, well, that's a stupid idea, we immediately, with our little cognitive brain of 9 or 10 or 12 even, see, I'm stupid. And so we get the opportunity to, it doesn't, in so many ways, it's not the circumstances in which we live or lived, it's our attitude today and the lens from which we see the world and ourselves. Because here's the beautiful thing, Diane, I love this. Our outer reality is a reflection of our inner reality.
Okay. So are you saying that we see the world through the lens of what we believe about ourselves?
Absolutely.
Oh, that's interesting.
Absolutely. And then also those judgments about ourselves, and those judgments against millennials, and those judgments against baby boomers, and the judgments against Generation X, and the judgments and the judgments. We could go on with that all day long.
That's really interesting. So is this why companies have a hard time motivating millennials
Yes.
and Gen Xers?
Yes, absolutely. And the baby boomers, they have a different work ethic just because of their experience. But here's the deal. So many people will say, well, the millennials and Generation X, they just require so much attention at work. Well, let me share something with you. They may be a perfectionist, and perfectionists require a lot of extra attention, no matter what their age is. They want to make sure that they're getting it right, and they feel that the only way they can make sure that they're getting their work done properly and not going to suffer from that is by getting comments from their supervisors or managers very often. But here's the most important thing. We learn how to do things by positive reinforcement. We learn to be acknowledged by attention. And so if those are basic human qualities, then doesn't it make sense that we let go of this judgment against millennials? They need so much attention, and rather we create in our management, we create touch points where we come and we have touch points with the whole workforce And
Right.
we acknowledge what they're doing. And at that moment of acknowledgement, if they have a question, they will ask it, which will alleviate a lot of errors. When we can acknowledge what they're doing at that time, then we can find potential errors and we can nip it in the bud right then and there.
Yeah.
And so we're on the same track. Instead of management being on this track, millennials are on that track, which just requires so much. And then, then we've got that Generation X track, and then we have the baby boomer track. Just thinking about it makes me dizzy.
Yeah.
Right?
You and everyone. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's a human track of acknowledgement, of listening, and being a true leader in giving guidance and letting people know that they're on the right track before that train goes off, even veers slightly. By having a consistent touch points, we're able to check in consistently, and the workers know that, and management knows that, instead of checking in when there's a problem or an issue.
Yeah, right.
And that becomes demotivating for all ages.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then you add the added insult of the present perception, where the millennials will start to think that the baby boomers being parental.
Right.
And right, and the parent will think, oh, they're being disrespectful.
Mm-hmm.
So that parent-child comes in, and even Generation X. Generation X today, they're in their 40s and early 50s, and they still have a relationship with baby boomers, the older baby boomers, where it's a parental-child situation too. Sometimes it's very difficult for a parent to see their 42-year-old as an adult, because they're just our little kid.
Right.
We're proud of them and we acknowledge them, but and so when they come back as a worker might, we think, oh, that's so disrespectful.
Yeah. That's fascinating. I never would have made that connection to that, but boy, it makes so much sense.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Yeah. And so business needs to be able to develop and be able to see through a new perceptual lens. And that new perceptual lens, I like to call it the integration of Jungian psychology, of synchronicity, of quantum physics. And I've labeled this, I call this now quantum synchronicity.
Wow.
And we often hear the word quantum and we think, oh, a quantum leap is a big leap, but that's not accurate. Quantum is the smallest denomination. And so what's required? Small changes along the way. Small steps to pick up momentum. The more small steps we take, the more momentum we create, the more productivity we have.
I so like that. I mean, for a lot of reasons. One, because I think part of the reason why people don't necessarily make these sorts of changes is because they feel so big, but every big thing has a whole bunch of little steps attached to it. So I like that. It feels less overwhelming to look at it that way.
Yes. And it, and that's the way we need to look at things. Whenever we think of change, one of the reasons so many people have a difficult time with change, because they think it's going to be a huge difference.
Yeah.
They're going to have to do a lot of different things. And, that's one of the reasons that quite honestly keeps people from eating healthy or cooking healthy meals or exercising or losing weight. Oh, I have to make so many changes. But no, quantum physics has shown us that the The smallest movement impacts everything else. The smallest movement. And so if we can think of the dynamics of quantum physics, and we can think that breaking this down into small bits and just build a little momentum, because once you start the action, just by very nature of motion, you now have momentum. And when you have momentum, we've all felt that, right? In that space of momentum, we feel we're getting something done. We get motivated. It inspires us.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
This is so fascinating. I really appreciate you spending the time with me. Will you share with the listeners, how they can find you, how they can get your book?
Sure. I just will share with you, I was going to have a book launch called the Masquerade Ball. I've always wanted to have a big book launch, and this was the book, because this book, truly, the information in here and is the essence of what I do in the world. And then we had the virus, and and I'll tell you, I was so excited. I didn't have my dress yet, but I was still excited. And then this came about, the virus, and then all of a sudden, my mind switched to, well, Ruth, what about an online book launch? And Diane, that's exactly what I did. An online book launch. We had over 100 people.
Oh, that's wonderful.
On the call. The ticket to the online book launch was just the purchase of the book. And then I did some training, some marketing training as well. And if anyone would like to have that online book launch, it tells the story, my story of writing this book, and a lot of resistance that I had, and why, even though my other 6 books, it usually only takes me 4.5 months, part-time to write a book, and I help people write books. But this book took me 2 years.
Wow.
And I explain that process, and I go into some marketing, and I go into some of my limiting beliefs and limiting thoughts, and how I dealt with resistance. So if your listeners would like that, just have them, they can email me at rklein@ruthklein.com. Klein is Klein. They can purchase a book at their local bookstore, on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, wherever they sell books, and that's the best way to get a hold of me. And of course, my website is ruthklein.com.
Fabulous.
And I'd love for people to connect with me on Instagram. For whatever reason, I love Instagram. I can follow it. I can follow Instagram. I love it.
It's very good.
And so for those who want to connect with me on Instagram and say hi, my handle is ruth.klein. And again, Klein is Klein.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Listeners, thank you. And I would also like to thank our sponsor, audible.com. Get your free trial. audibletrial.com/businessgrowth is where you go to get that. And then you can explore not only the audiobooks, but the programs that they have there, and see what you like. As always, continue to prosper and be curious. And until we meet again on another episode of Accelerate Your Business Growth, goodbye and good day.
Welcome to Don't Retire, Graduate, the podcast that asks you what you want to be when you grow up so you can graduate into retirement with a purpose and a passion, whether you're 25, 85, or any age in between. Gain actionable financial and mindset tips from your favorite authors, podcasters, and influencers to help you reach that exciting next chapter. Listen now and start building your path to financial freedom and reframing what retirement can mean to you. This is your host, Eric Brotman, reminding you, don't retire, graduate.